A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning into this live broadcast from. Namaste. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. Welcome to today's broadcast. We are thrilled to have you join us today for the live stream. The focus topic for today is vegetarianism in Hinduism. So today we have our resident panel of experts, Sitaben Vijaybai and Manishbhai, who will be sharing their insights and knowledge on this important topic. So we welcome viewers from around the world, but we are especially excited to have our viewers from India, where Hinduism has been an integral part of the culture and way of life for centuries. We hope that today's discussion will deepen our understanding of vegetarianism in Hinduism and its significance in our lives. So the format of the broadcast, for those of you who are new, is very simple. First, we will start with a video which will focus on the topic of today. After we watch the video, our panel of resident experts here will share their thoughts and their insights into the topic and discuss its significance in the context of Hinduism. If time permits, we will also answer viewers' questions live on air during the broadcast. So vegetarianism in Hinduism has been a topic of much discussion and debate lately, both within the Hindu community and outside of it. Many Hindus choose to follow a vegetarian diet because it is a way to practice ahimsa or non-violence, which is an important principle of Hinduism. Vegetarianism is believed to promote good health, purity of mind, and spiritual growth, as well as respect for all living beings. Now, in addition to the principle of ahimsa, the concept of karma is also closely linked to vegetarianism in Hinduism. According to Hinduism, all actions have consequences, and the food we consume can have an impact on our karma. Therefore, by choosing to follow a vegetarian diet, many Hindus believe that they are contributing to a positive karma and spiritual growth. Now, it is important to note that, however, that vegetarianism is not a strict requirement in Hinduism, and there are different opinions and practices within the Hindu community. Some Hindus choose to consume meat, while others follow a vegan or a lacto-vegetarian diet. So in today's live stream, our panel of experts will delve deeper into the significance of vegetarianism in Hinduism, explore some of its historical and cultural context, and we will also discuss the benefits and challenges of following a vegetarian diet and the role of vegetarianism in modern Hindu society. We hope that today's discussion will provide a better understanding of the topic and inspire you to explore this in your own way. And we invite you to participate in the discussion by sharing your thoughts, comments, questions, opinions in the comment section of whichever platform you're watching us live on. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Share this with your friends and family so we can have a more deeper conversation with them. So I hope that this live stream will be informative, engaging, and thought-provoking, and we look forward to your active participation. So the broadcast will end at 3 o'clock UK time. So let's get started with the topic of today. Bear with me as I share my screen, and we will get started with this topic very shortly.
A lot of people are Hindus believe that we should be vegetarian. Now, I know there's lots of people who are not vegetarian, but they still believe they're Hindus. Now, is that right?
Okay, let me be very clear. Most people are confused. They think to be a Hindu, you must be a vegetarian. Is there an imposition like that? Is there an injunction? You must be a vegetarian to be Hindu? No. The only mention in the scripture of authority in the Vedas regarding what you eat or not eat is this. Simply says, revere all life, respect all life, including the plant life. They're alive too. The only mention about giving reverence to life is simply saying revere all life, plant life as well. This is the honesty Vedas. But you may be surprised to know 60% of Hindus in India, 60% of Hindus in India eat fish, meat, seafood or eggs. 60 to 70%. So you say all of you are not Hindus, you are finished, there's no Hinduism left then. So don't impose, Hinduism is not a vegetarian menu, but it still recognizes that being vegetarian is good. Well, you know why? He says, look, If you want to look, all of us have to live on other living things. I eat plants, they're living, I'm eating them. I can't help myself, I'll die. So we live on other living things, but we say, okay, rather than live on very, lives that are very close to us, like animal life, cows and all these, animals are very, almost human. Rather than kill them and eat them, let's live on the least evolved, plant life. We're still eating life, but still plant life is less evolved. So we say, let's live on the least evolved thing rather than the most evolved thing. That's why we avoid. That's one reason. The second reason is this. In reality, we know nowadays they're finding out that vegetarian diet is good for your health. This is the second reason. The third reason why we should encourage vegetarianism is this. Ecological reasons. Because you have plants that will be eaten by animals and then human beings eat animals, this is creating greenhouse effect. This is creating problem. So ecological reason also why you should become vegetarian. This is serious science. Then there's a fourth reason. That's the most important reason I like. It says, look, have you seen the way the animals are treated before they're murdered and butchered? Horrendously, treated horrendously. Look at any of the factory farming programs. You can't eat meat after you've seen that. You say cruelty to animals, the reason why I want to become vegetarian. And do you know I go to a lot of English girls' schools? English girls, they're not boys. Boys are mature. They do anything that comes around. Girls are sweeties. Many English girls have become vegetarian. And ask them, why? You are supposed to be Hindu, why are you vegetarian? They said, because we don't like the idea of cruelty to animals. So we told her, mommy, for us, we are vegetarian. We will eat corn, but not meat. So this is the real reason to be vegetarian. You feel for the animals. You don't want to butcher them and eat them. This is the best way of being vegetarian. Not because Hinduism says, okay, rubber stamp, Hindu, must eat. Don't do that. We are not prescriptive like that. We allow you to think for yourself and decide. So if you feel uncomfortable with this idea of eating meat, stop it straight away. Then you are a natural Hindu and a natural vegetarian. No imposition by your religion.
Wonderful. So that is the focus topic video of today. And so we have with us our resident panel of experts. So we have Sitaben, Manish Bhai, Vijay Bhai. Welcome to today's call, everybody. And so let's get started with some questions. So I have a few questions already coming in from the online stream. So the first question is, what is the significance of vegetarianism in Hinduism? Sitaben?
Yes, I mean, so as Dad said in the video, it's not an injunction of Hinduism to be vegetarian, but we recognize the sanctity of life. We have the idea of ahimsa, which talks about respect and reverence for all life. And the unfortunate fact about how the universe is and how the cookie crumbles is that our mere existence involves stepping on other life. That is just unfortunately how things are. Just even the process of breathing itself involves killing hundreds and thousands of microbes, because when they enter your system, your body has to destroy them. So our actual existence involves stepping on other life. But vegetarianism recognizes that let's try and lessen the impact of, the harm that we are causing, because it's inevitable to cause some level of harm, but let's try and reduce it. This is something that's within our control. So why don't we, rather than eat animals, why don't we try and focus on less evolved organisms, as Dad said in the video? So plants, which may possibly feel pain in lesser way than an animal would. And the thing is, just the whole simple fact that suppose, you see a little calf and it's dragged away from its mother and it's used to be killed. I mean, how traumatic would that be? And this is why some people, even though it may not be part of their religion or their tradition or their culture, are moving more and more towards not just vegetarianism, but even one step further towards veganism, because this idea of cruelty to animals is just becoming more and more unbearable for the human population. So I see that as a really positive step, because we are becoming more evolved in that sense. We are becoming more civilized because we recognize the damage that we can do to the living kingdom around us. So I think it's a wonderful step that humanity is going in, and possibly I'm hoping that in hundreds of years to come, people will say, "Oh my goodness, can you believe people used to eat meat?" And it would be something that was like shocking, and people just can't even imagine it. So let's hope that we are on that kind of a trajectory. Vijay Bhai, Manish Bhai?
Yeah, Sita, I think you've got it very nicely. I think that's the idea that all life is revered. So, but of course, there's certain reasons why people still eat meat for various reasons. So I think we should be careful not to judge the geographical reasons, historical reasons, main reasons why people still eat meat. But hopefully we get forward towards going towards a better, to a more vegetarian diet.
So as Hindus, we believe in reincarnation, and we believe many people come from the animal life. Now, if they have eaten meat in that life, it's more likely that they will love to eat meat in this life. So that is one of the reasons why people would, love to eat meat, and some people will have that background. So to say, oh, everyone should become vegetarian.
Brilliant. So we saw in the video that Jay said about 60, maybe 70% of Hindus in India are maybe non-vegetarian, or at least fish eating, etc. So is it possible to be a devout Hindu without practicing vegetarianism? Let's just clarify this for once. Manish Bhai, let's start with you today.
I think, yes, as Jay Bhai says, it's what comes out of your mouth that's more important, not what goes in. And we see, and that is the thing. Of course, what you eat has impact on your mindset. But if you are, spiritual by nature, and you have that good, devout nature, then it's not going to affect you. You will still make spiritual progress even whilst eating meat. So I don't think diet is as necessary in the spiritual life. Sitaben?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, yes, we do agree with ahimsa and the importance of showing reverence and respect to all life. But we can't just reduce the whole of Hinduism, the whole of the idea of spirituality to what's on your menu, what's on your plate. It's so much more broader than that. And it may even come naturally to you that as you make spiritual progress, you might start feeling a greater affinity with the whole living kingdom around you. And it may sort of arise naturally within you to think, maybe I don't feel right eating meat anymore, and maybe it will come naturally to you. So maybe that's a part of your spiritual journey, but we have to be clear that it doesn't mean if you eat meat that you're a horrible villain or a horrible person, nothing like that whatsoever. As Manish Bhai said, it's what you say and what you do, which is more important than what you eat. Vijay Bhai?
Yeah, I mean, I think I absolutely agree. I think we have to be very careful, because if you accept that the ideas of Hinduism are universal, which they are, Sanatana Dharma is universal. I mean, there are many places that you couldn't even grow crops properly, let's face it, yeah? And I mean, even in India, well, not India, but even Nepal, a lot of hill tribes where live in the hills, they can't really grow any crops as such, because it's not possible. They may have some wild grass and animals. So in that sense, you see people eat what they can, depending on the geographical location. You'd be surprised that even Tibetan Buddhists, who are like, Buddhists really revering life, vast majority of Tibetan Buddhists eat meat because they live in an area which is so desolate, right? Except maybe monks. So it's sometimes quite dictated by how your tradition is, geographically. And India has got a very vast coastline. So a lot of people are fishermen, and that's for generations of eating, they're fishermen. So shall we say that they're not proper Hindus? We can't do that. As Sita just mentioned, we'll be very careful that we can't reduce Hinduism to a kind of a diet or a menu. We have to be very careful that the vast number of people in India who live in areas where it's not. Let me tell you an interesting fact here, that even in ancient times in India, even farmers are struggling, you'll be surprised, to put vegetarian food. They didn't have a crop every year. So what if you're not a farmer? So quite often, even for survival reasons, people have eaten meat. It's not unique in that sense. So I think the figure is right. I checked figures a while back. I think only about 30% can actually claim in India to be truly vegetarian. Rest 70% either they eat only fish or maybe eggs or other things. So quite often there are a lot of factors you decide on your diet. It's not just religion. So many reasons. So I think we should try and separate the two out in that sense. Hinduism has to be universal. It has to apply everybody. You can't say, okay, people eat this food, that food, then they can't be. That it doesn't work like that.
Superb. So Vijay, that brings me to the next question. Is it possible to promote vegetarianism in Hinduism without criticizing or condemning people who are non-vegetarians?
Absolutely.
How do you go about promoting this?
No, absolutely. That's a very good point because, I mean, as Jaiba mentioned in the video, today you'd be surprised the amount of forests being cleared in Amazon. I think every day is about 400 football fields of land is being cleared. I mean, Amazon is very vast. It's like, I think 400 billion trees. Nevertheless, every day is being cleared out for cattle farming. Land is not ideal for growing crops. That is like, forest land with very thin layer of, fertile soil. So cattle farming is coming up. And the amount of land being used, because you create a pyramid, right? Where every cow you feed thousands of tons of grain, or at least have get thousands of tons acres of land have to be cleared out. So in effect, the price the environment pays is very high. So the idea to promote vegetarianism without vilifying, give these reasons to people, very valid reasons. You don't have to bring religion in. Okay, of course, we believe in the idea of ahimsa, reverence for life, and it's a good thing. But the damage done to environment. So in effect, if you reduce that, then I think people will accept vegetarianism. You don't have to vilify, meat eaters. Something interesting to mention here as well, that even in the UK about 50 years ago, people didn't have meat every day. For some reason, after the 50s, meat consumption really shot up. People used to eat meat only once a week, or maybe if you're lucky, like fish once a week, as a matter of fact. I mean, meat 2 or 3 times a month because it wasn't available. You had leek soup and whatever used to grow. So it wasn't popular. But because of commercial income, commercial farming and science, it was hormone growth of meat and whatever. It's way gone out of control. And I think even forget us, even the British medical society is saying that our consumption of meat is way too high now. So if you can educate people about the benefit of vegetarianism, especially from an environment point of view, then I think it's a good thing. And we should, not because of it's a Hindu idea, it's a good idea for the world and for humanity. I think we should keep that in mind. Sita?
I completely agree. I mean, sometimes it may even be off-putting to people to say that this is a religious idea or a religious teaching. So in the world that we're living in today, if we focus more on the benefit it has for the environment, the benefit it has for your own health, then hopefully it will sort of help transform people's thinking better, rather than saying it's written in our book and you must do this. That kind of thinking is just going to put people off it, and they'll say, actually, you know what, I'm going to eat my burger now. So it's better to sort of focus more on actually what we're doing by sort of creating animals or meat for consumption is we are really disrupting the ecological sort of system, the balance, the natural balance of the world, because we're producing far more cows, we're producing far more chickens than is natural, so we're really disrupting the whole ecosystem. And also, we're creating a whole chain in the system of, the carbon footprint as well. So it's not helpful to the environment to have this mass production of meat. And also for our own health, it's actually more beneficial. Rather than relying on meat for our protein, we can rely on lentils and pulses, which also have a tremendous amount of protein. So hopefully if we sort of focus more on that angle, then hopefully people will be able to start thinking about it in a more positive way. And it's fine.
Sorry, nothing to add. Back to you, Nisha.
Wonderful. So, how has the perception of vegetarianism evolved over time?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, I mean, all I can say is that the perception is getting better and better. I think because of the news or internet and the available of ready news, people are aware of the cruelty and a lot of cruelty and health issues. I mean, I think a couple of weeks ago, I was reading a news that, for every, for example, egg production, every year Britain kills one-day-old male chicks, 29 million a year are killed on the first day because they're not female chicks, they don't lay eggs. The thing is, you can't use them for meat because meat, especially broiler chickens, in that case, they get rid of the female chicks and then. So the thing is, they go in a grinder, literally in a grinder, and they crush on the first day. And when people see this kind of stuff, it's not natural farming where you have a little farm and chickens running around and nibbling. By the way, chickens, are descendant of dinosaurs. They actually omnivore. They eat pretty much anything, and they are being forced in a particular cage to behave in a particular way. And that's why, if you notice one thing, they did an experiment recently. I think they said some chickens were starving. They put some rats in there, and they ate the rat within a few minutes because that's the DNA is like that. So the way we are forcing animals to be in a particular way, and it's not right for us because commercials drive all this, right? If you have a chicken who does not produce enough eggs, that particular breed will be stuck on the side, and the one which does, and as I mentioned, male chicks are just wiped off. So we have all this kind of commercial farming, intense farming, to satisfy the need, the unsatiable need of humans to consume all these animal products. It's immense. When you see that in the news, you go, you know what, I'd rather stay away. And most people I know, I've talked to eat meat, they don't want to see that. They want to see only a nice packaging in the shops, right? In a tin or something. They don't want to see the actual product because even they know that actually there's something not right. But of course, they've grown up with the taste of meat, so it's difficult for them. And to be fair, we have to keep that in mind that it's quite difficult for people to give up if you've grown up with that particular kind of food. It's not easy. And people who do that, it's very good. I kind of commend them, but it's not easy. I'll give you in my own house an example. A couple of us are vegan. My mother is not. She can't give up yogurt and milk. It just won't work because our health system will go out of control because she's grown up from day one. So you can imagine dietary habits sometimes are very difficult to change. If you've grown up with fish for a long time, if you give up fish suddenly, the nutrients your body is used to, you'll suffer. But nevertheless, the thing is that if you keep all this information out there, people can make their own judgment. You can see the cruelty. And that way is one way of kind of, getting people aware of the benefits of vegetarianism. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's really important to get people thinking and raise awareness rather than sort of trying to shove it down their throat. And even if it's like, a fad, and we don't want it to just be a fad and something to fizzle out after a month of doing it. You're like, oh, I've done my bit. I'm in with the popular crowd. We don't want it to be like that. It needs to be a longer term sort of solution. And if we sort of let people know the impact of meat and just lay the facts out in front of them and let them think for themselves. But as Vijay said, it's not easy. If you've grown up with meat is just being part of every single meal that you've eaten every single day of your life. It's not easy to give it up. But these days they are trying to produce all these sort of alternatives. They even produce this kind of corn, whatever, which looks like meat. And sometimes I've had it and I'm like, oh, this feels a bit weird. I'm not used to eating meat. But it's completely vegetarian. But it's wonderful that they're using this innovation to try and wean people off meat. And like I said before, it would be wonderful if we look back in 100 years, 200 years and say, oh, can you believe there was a time when people used to eat meat? How shocking. And, the world would be a much better place, hopefully.
Again, back to you, Nisit Bhai. Sorry,
Wonderful. So it's great to see all the regular viewers, some new viewers on the channels today. Welcome to you all. If you just newly joined us, I just want to remind you that the focus topic for today is vegetarianism in Hinduism. And so we've had some of the viewers sharing some of their recipes, talking about Kathiawadi food and talking about dal, chawal, and so on, saying that vegetarianism has got, almost all the nutrients that you need for your body to be healthy. But my question again, Manish Bhai, to you this time, is it possible to follow a vegetarian diet and still maintain optimal health and nutrition?
Definitely, Nisit Bhai. There is plenty of vegetarian food out there that contains essential nutrients. As Sita Ben mentioned, the lentils, all the dals, they contain plenty of proteins. And many vegetarians use milk products, and that is acceptable as a vegetarian. And they have, complete nutrients as well. So there are plenty of options available for those who wish to be vegetarian. And yes, I think you can live a healthy life being vegetarian.
Superb. Vijay bhai, I have a question for you. So you talked about how trees are being cleared from the Amazon forest to make way for farm, raising cattle, etc., etc. We've heard plenty of stories of the impact of of raising cattle for the meat industry on global warming, etc. But I want to play devil's advocate and ask you, for example, avocados. They seem to have risen up in popularity. They're everywhere, and it's suddenly fashionable or healthy. I don't know, whatever. People love having avocados. But they are not sustainable because people have to, it's a tropical thing with change in climate. People have to make way to plant them somewhere else. B, they have to be transported. So they're not grown everywhere. They're just grown in certain areas. And that, therefore, you're looking at air or transport, contribution to the global warming. And C, I heard it takes about 320 liters of water to produce one single avocado. Not at all environmentally friendly, etc. So, whilst we say vegetarianism is good, is there supposed to be a balance so that we can have sustainably eco-friendly kind of a diet as well?
Oh, absolutely valid point. Actually, avocado is called the green gold apparently because of the color. But you're right, because I mean, of course, you get purple avocados as well. But at the moment, I've heard in the news that in Mexico, by the way, there's a huge mafia which runs avocado kind of cartels, right? They're so valuable. And the thing is that I agree with you that, look, I personally believe that we should eat as much of what's in season and what's available locally as much as you can. I mean, same with banana plantations. Banana plantations, vast amount of banana plantations. But one thing to keep in mind is it's true because they grow in a particular area. You can't grow them everywhere, avocados. You can't grow them in America. I mean, America, by the way, interesting fact, sorry to go sidetrack, in America, about 96% of the corn grown there is field corn for cattle feed. Only 4-5% corn is actually which you get, the Green Giant.
They import 75% of the avocados from Mexico.
Yeah, so Mexico is a big problem. But I think that is something that's one we should be aware of that. If people are aware, then they'll kind of say, okay, look, I should avocado only once in a while or something. You're right. Even avocado trees are really consuming a lot of water. I think when I was growing up in Nairobi, maybe initially by if like nobody should avocado, just throw it in the bin. The avocado trees, nobody bothered, right? But now because of the what do you call the television, commercials, people's awareness, conditioning people's mind, avocado is good for you. And quite often these cartels which drive this big, producers of this group that this is healthy for you. And we're conditioned now to eat avocado. I eat avocado now. I never did when I was young for some reason. Now I do. It's always something influenced by TV or news or health articles. So the thing is, I think we have to be aware. I mean, best thing we can do, I guess, is try and say, look, let's eat what's in season, let's eat what's available. I mean, UK has loads of pears, apples, you get a lot of good stuff, blackberries, raspberries, which grow. Try and focus on what you get locally and eat what's in season, because quite often, when it's something out in season, some other countries are put under intense farming to produce this to supply to us, right? And of course, there's again the other question is this, which is very important, is that the transport costs are immense. When we get blueberries out of season here, they come from all the way from Argentina, right? That's what we consume. So the cost to transport it. So in a way, it's ironic that although we said that I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, I'm not damaged. Actually, you are, because when you eat this kind of stuff, you can't say that you're not damaged. You are damaging the environment. So I think we should be careful not to vilify the meat eaters, because we are equally culprits in some ways when you eat all these kind of exotic foods. But it's a valid point. I think we should have that control. I mean, if somebody in Mexico eats avocado, that's fine because that's local produce. But nowadays, of course, everybody in the world wants to eat that, and that can be a problem. It's only with the avocado, any food, like sturgeon caviar. There's no hardly any sturgeon fish left in the Caspian Sea. The whole world wants to eat it. Ideally, it should be the local people who should enjoy the bounty first before it goes out. But I mean, this is the unfortunate reality of the world. So there's a lot to think about on this. A lot of thought has to be
for
given
me.
them.
The key takeaway was what you said was try and buy local produce where you can, and that way you can A, cut down on the environmental impact, but B, you're also supporting your local community wherever you are, instead of some other big corporation somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's a really, really good takeaway. Sitaben, here's a question for you. Can the principles of vegetarianism in Hinduism be applied to other aspects of life, such as fashion or cosmetics?
Yeah, of course, definitely. So the thing is, like, we have an impact on everything around us in whatever we make, whatever we produce. So I think it's really important that we remember it's not just restricted to food. We sort of have an impact on the animal kingdom with other things as well, because we've all heard of animal testing on cosmetics. We've all, seen that you can use leather and all of these animal products to sort of feed our fashion frenzy. Which in a way is just not right. I think really our attitude as humanity needs to change, because we see the world around us as, like an endless, infinite bounty where we can just draw whatever we want from it for our own comfort, our own convenience, our own likes and dislikes. But we really need to change it, because rather than thinking, oh, it's my right to take this, it's my right to take that, actually, we've forgotten that there's a whole other part of the equation, which is what is our responsibility. What is our responsibility as human beings to not just take and take what is my right to take, but to actually have a sense of duty and a sense of responsibility to say, I need this item, I need this product. Let me try and find it in a way that's the most environmentally friendly, the most ecologically friendly, rather than just saying what's convenient for me and what's cheaper for me. We need to sort of have a bit of a change in our mindset to think about our responsibility rather than just our rights and what I want to take for myself.
Super. So there's loads of things we can discuss on this. One of the things that is very close to me is it's sad to see, even here in a developed country like the UK, we still have a lot of people who rely on food banks. And that's quite a sad thing to see. But I also see on the flip side a lot of food waste going on, whether it's from the bigger supermarkets or people even at home, not considering, buying more than they need, wasting food and it goes to the bin, etc. So my question, Vijay, is how can we address the issue of food waste and promote sustainable practices in vegetarianism? Whilst promoting vegetarianism, how can we? How do I say this? How can we sensitize the viewers of here today on being more mindful about food waste?
I think the food waste is a big issue. I'll be honest with you. I'm a culprit as well. Quite often, see food in the fridge, you forget about it, or it goes yellow or whatever. With a lot of food waste happens on a large scale. I think it's all kinds of food. Doesn't matter if it's the meat or vegetables or whatever. I mean, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the cost of growing meat is higher than cost of growing kind of say grain or vegetables in general. So in that sense, I guess if you say meat is wasted, then there's a big background to it to produce the kind of meat. It's less for kind of plants. But all I can say is that regarding food banks, I guess people will give whatever they can, whatever they afford. But mostly it's going to be, I think, vegetarian or tins or beans or whatever, which is going on a mass scale, is much cheaper. So not more to add on that, Nishit Bhai, sorry. Yeah.
Wonderful. So with Manish Bhai, could you share what is the relationship between vegetarianism and yoga? Is there any connection?
So about, in yoga theory, we have yamas and niyamas, and one of the niyam is ahimsa. So that practice of ahimsa, that you try to not harm or injure any living things. So in a way, a vegetarian diet comes in, but the yoga does say you need to have a mixed and balanced diet to sustain your body. And I think that's about it. Sitaben, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, because the idea of yoga is external as well as internal. So you're addressing, your physical condition as well as your internal condition. So the physical condition needs to be fit and healthy in order for you to focus on the internal condition. Otherwise, if you're sick and all sorts of problems health-wise, you're not going to be able to focus inside. So diet is important in terms of practicing of yoga. And the only problem is that a lot of people think that's all there is to yoga, is just having a very nice, fit, healthy body, and that's it. That's all yoga is. But actually, there's so much more to it. So our diet can definitely supplement it. But I mean, you can go out and enjoy the world with your physically fit body, no problem. But don't forget, there is this whole other dimension to yoga as well.
Fabulous. Vijay bhai, so one last thing is, how can we go about, in our daily lives here in the modern world, where a lot of, let me put it this way. For example, if you were to visit a country like China and you're a vegetarian, you would struggle quite a bit. If you go to Thailand and say, okay, I want vegetarian Thai green curry, they consider oyster sauce or fish oil or whatever is vegetarian. They don't even consider that as non-veg. So you will struggle in different cultures and different societies on the definitions of what is vegetarian, etc. But let's say in context of where we are, how can we integrate and adapt to lifestyle outside countries? Like, let's say it's easier to be a vegetarian in India, where there are loads of other vegetarians and loads of suppliers. But here the choices are limited, for example. So any ideas? I'll ask the three of you on what your tips are of how you would go about looking for stuff that is vegetarian.
Okay, I can tell you my personal experience. I was working in Japan many years ago when I was young, and I actually ordered some soup, vegetable soup. And initially they put some little small, what do you call, spreading of some ham in there. I said, that's not really vegetarian. And he goes, it's okay. I said, no, it's not okay. So he brought a new soup for me. And he had these shells, empty shells, nothing in this. There was no oyster, there's no kind of, what do you call these, mussels or anything, just empty shells. I said, but why do you put empty shells? Actually, it's quite common to give you that salty flavor. I didn't know that. I said, I can't have that either. And he goes, but there's no meat, right? And I said, but it's just empty shells. I said, no, it doesn't work for me. So the thing is that eventually I didn't find luckily I found a Buddhist temple and they were selling vegetarian as I would expect. But I think nowadays what I do, I use Happy Cow wherever I go. It's a very good app, Happy Cow. No matter where you go in Europe, you always find something. But you're right. I've not been to China personally, but in China, I know there's a lot of challenges people have with food because it's so part of the norm. By the way, interesting fact is that only 10% of China is actually arable land. You'd be surprised for growing crops. India is about 50% arable. Actually, all of India is arable. If you have the water, all of India can be farmed because of the soil coming from Himalayas, right? Again, the environment decides what kind of diet you have. But even in China, I've been told that if you go to a lot of temples, they will always have pure vegetarian food. So you can get in China as well, but you need to know where to go. But it's not easy, I agree with you, because their dietary habits are totally different. Thailand is a good example with so many waterways there. Fish is so common, so fish oil is just standard food. People don't even think twice, right? Because they're not, even as Sita mentioned, if you grow up like that, there's no way you're going to think differently. Think, that's just standard, right? When you insist on it, then of course they struggle. But it's one of those challenges you just have to come over. But luckily, the veganism is growing so much now, vegetarianism. The people out there there's a market for it now, that if you go to any of these countries, they will have some restaurant somewhere because people will go there. And if you pay some fee for this Happy Cow app, a lot of people will turn up there. I mean, we recently went to my kids to Budapest, we went to Prague, and we were surprised. There's so many vegan restaurants because of this Happy Cow, and they actually market them as such. And a lot of people go, even people who eat meat, once in a while they want a change of diet, they go there as well. But it's something that's changing slowly. But luckily, with a more aware world, with a lot of information exchange, hopefully it gets better and better. But it is a problem, nevertheless. Sita?
I completely agree, because I went to China a few years ago. We had exactly the same problem. Like they don't have the concept of vegetarian. They're like, what is this? They just can't get their head around it. So yes, I struggled there as well. But I think really, a lot of it is to do with the cultural specificity of each country. That this is their tradition. This is all they know. This is how they prepare their food. So 100 years ago, 200 years ago, it was all these countries were relatively isolated and they had their own way of doing things. But I think one benefit possibly of globalism, as Vijay Bhai said, is that everything is becoming more universalized. All of these ideas of what is vegetarianism, what is veganism. It's all becoming more universal. So in a way, it's starting to make it easier to then find vegan restaurants in places you wouldn't expect anymore. So I think that's at least one good thing that's come out of globalization, is that it's becoming more popular and more easily accessible. I mean, it's so like living in London, it's just a breeze to be a vegetarian or even a vegan now, because there are so many options. Every single restaurant has got a vegan or vegetarian option in it. So I think the world is slowly moving in that direction. Nishit?
Yes, I think with technology, we can always Google and find something to eat vegetarian. Many years ago, I went to Romania and I had similar issues, and I was served a soup with meat pieces in it and told it's vegetarian as well. And I think many times, I think even in Spain and places like that, if you buy salad, there could be meat pieces, so you need to be careful. But with technology, I think we can always find something. That's a good thing. That's all I have to add to that.
Brilliant. Folks, thank you so much for joining us today. We were discussing vegetarianism in Hinduism. So vegetarianism has several positive aspects, some of which include it promotes health. So vegetarianism has been shown to help reduce the risk of diseases such as heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and hypertension. A well-planned vegetarian diet can provide all the necessary nutrients for optimum health and well-being. It can also help towards the reduction of carbon footprint. Of course, we looked at avocados as an unusual case, but overall, a vegetarian diet is generally more environmentally sustainable and can reduce the carbon footprint in comparison to the meat-based diet. Because the animal agriculture is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, and reducing meat consumption can help address climate change a little bit. The other thing vegetarianism does is it respects all living things. So vegetarianism is rooted in the principle of ahimsa, or non-violence, which promotes respect for all living beings. Following a vegetarian diet can contribute towards promoting this principle and promoting respect and compassion for all beings. Now, Devi did mention that even plants are living beings, but they are the lowest form compared to maybe animals. The other thing that vegetarianism does, it helps to promote mindfulness. So vegetarianism can promote mindfulness and conscious eating habits. So vegetarians often pay more attention to the quality and the source of their food, and can promote mindful eating practices that benefit physical and mental health. So from now on, Vijay is going to think about avocados. It also then aligns with spiritual values. So many Hindus follow the vegetarian diet as a way to align their spiritual values such as ahimsa, karma, purity of mind, etc. And it can be also a means of promoting your spiritual growth and living in harmony with the principles of Hinduism. So in today's discussion, we explored the significance of vegetarianism in Hinduism and its relevance to the modern world. We discussed historical and cultural context, its relationships to the principles of ahimsa and karma, its benefits for health, spirituality, and the environment. We also examined the challenges and the controversies surrounding vegetarianism and how we can promote it in a respectful and ethical manner. So to conclude this discussion, here are some points to ponder. Number one, how can we balance the importance of vegetarianism with the needs and traditions of diverse communities and cultures around the world? Number two, what are some practical steps we can take to promote vegetarianism, both on an individual level and as a society? Number three, how can we address the misconceptions and stereotypes surrounding vegetarianism and promote a more nuanced and respectful understanding of this topic? And number four, what are some of the future trends and developments in vegetarianism, and how can we stay informed and engaged with this evolving topic? So like, for example, we talked about corn, we talked about other meat alternatives, and we probably looked at other ways of not necessarily having meat, but also not losing the flavor or the feel of having it as well. So there are various things that will come around, and I hope that this discussion has helped you understand and appreciate the importance of vegetarianism in Hinduism. So Manish bhai, I think we should conclude the topic here, and I hand back to you if there's any other questions from the viewers.
Sure. Thank you, Nishit bhai. I've been checking the chat on YouTube and not seen many questions. So here is one. Many people try to, when we talk about topics like this, is what is the scriptural basis of either, is eating meat or vegetarian? Is there anything in Vedas or scriptures that say one way or the other, Vijay bhai?
So I think there's no clear-cut definition. I mean, you'd be surprised that even in some Vedic scriptures, there are some verses which talk about sacrifice of animals as well, but under strict conditions. So I think one thing my take on the Vedas, it has tried to limit the amount of animal sacrifice by putting all these rituals and whatever. But I'm fairly certain, I'm quite sure that even in ancient times, even religious people to some extent eat some sort of kind of meat. But of course, it's nowadays we have much more different environment, so we can actually move forward. But there's no clear cut. Of course, there are some modern scriptures, like in my faith, the modern scripture is very clear. You should never touch meat. Yeah, that's fine. But as you know, we have Hindus that don't have any kind of a straitjacket kind of view that you must do this because the book says that. We don't have that kind of view. So many books promote vegetarianism. If I'm not wrong, even I think Patanjali, I'm fairly certain the verse says you must be vegetarian to do meditation, right? So there are some books that have different kind of views. No clear-cut answer. Sita?
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there was no sort of strict injunction within Hinduism, and actually, many think that, of course, the idea of Jainism has been a big influence on certain parts of the Indian subcontinent into sort of bringing in this idea of vegetarianism. So we've got Jainism to thank for that, because it wasn't naturally part of Hindu philosophy prior to sort of Jainism, but it sort of entered as a result of this other influence, which is wonderful, because a lot of us have grown up being vegetarian because we are from the part of India like Gujarat or South India as well, which has this sort of vegetarian culture now because of that kind of influence. So I think that's really great, and hopefully we sort of carry on in that trajectory.
Wonderful to hear. We take a question from Tusharvai. He's asking, what does Dharma say of lab-grown meat? What is your take on lab-grown meat, Sidhavan?
Well, technically, you could argue it's not even meat then, it's just chemically produced. So in a way, it's not harming animals. So there's probably absolutely nothing wrong with it, in the same way that we have corn and all of these meat substitutes, because you're not going out there and killing animals to produce it. So I think that's a really positive step. And hopefully, I mean, we already have so many products out there which look and feel like meat, and are actually completely plant-based. So hopefully it's just one less impact on the environment, having this kind of alternative to wean people off actually having meat. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think I agree with Tushar. I mean, and the thing is, the dharmic, let's put it, there's no dharmic view as such, because ultimately you eat food to sustain your body. If it's lab-grown, so be it. I think my personal lab-grown meat will really pick up, because quite often people will say now, oh, I can't have that. That's strange. It's processed meat. But the power of marketing and power of conditioning, you get some celebrity to eat it. Everybody will eat it, right? So I have a strong feeling that eventually these huge multinationals who are actually working in this field and going lab-grown meat, I think they will really take off. Because people's minds are conditioned by ads and how big industries do it, use some celebrities, and it'll all work. Personally, I have no view. I think it's a good thing, because it reduces the impact on the environment. And in the future, to sustain humanity, I think we'll have a lot of this other kind of, lab kind of grown stuff. Another interesting point to mention here is that the commercials are, from what I hear, at the moment is expensive, but pretty soon when it becomes mass scale, it'll be much cheaper to grow lab-grown meat. And that is what's going to drive eventually. It's a simple example, like, we consume B12. B12 is in all the cereals. At one time, it used to come from animal products. But now the soil is so degraded, you can't even get B12 if you eat meat, by the way, because the soil doesn't, it's bacteria, right? Doesn't have it. So what they do is they grow it in vials and labs, and all the cereals have B12, but it's grown in the petri dishes. So people are already eating that stuff. So I think also there's no dharmic injunction as such on that particular idea. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear. We take the next question from Charmaine. She's saying, normally meat eating is considered as tamasic food, and it may not help with the spiritual advancement. So does eating meat or your diet, like sometimes, in Vaishnava Sampradaya, they say onion, and eating onion, garlic is a tamasic food as well, and may harm your spiritual development. What's your take on it, Vijay?
Okay, this is an interesting topic. Very good point, because Ayurveda is very clear. If you look at Ayurveda, it does say that eating meat is not conducive for, again, it's one view, obviously. But as I mentioned earlier, the people who are in environments like Tibetans, they're very, very strong Buddhists, very religious people. They do eat meat. So I think we can't say 100%. We can never say for sure that because somebody is eating meat, he can never be. They can all make spiritual advancement from where they are. But I've noticed a lot of people, as they grow older, as Sita mentioned, they tend to give away meat. They say, look, no, I don't want it anymore, whatever reason. But again, it depends where you come from, because if you go in a Sikh langar, they use onions and garlic very happily in their food. But if you come from my Sampradaya, which we don't eat onion, but there's no onion and garlic in my house, to be honest with you. So it depends on dietary reasons and other historical reasons why people. But the funny thing is that onions and garlic have got a very rich in nutrients. But of course, they're very strong in terms of smell, breath, whatever. But it's just different views. I think we should be careful not to judge. I know that there are different views. I know that some people say that, look, some food is sattvic, like, I don't know, like carrots, courgette, they're very sattvic. Some are like in the middle, very spicy, which are like, very rajasic food, very, very spicy food, like chilies, whatever. And some people say there are different categories. All I would say is eat a clean, healthy diet. We don't eat too much of one thing and just give a nice meal. Then I think you're fine, Sita.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, sometimes, because we all have slightly different physiology. There's certain things our bodies tolerate better or tolerate less better. So perhaps rather than relying too much on what other people are saying, just focus on what makes you feel better. So if you find that, this food makes you feel very lethargic or lazy, then maybe try and avoid that kind of food. Or, food which makes you feel very sort of active or aggressive or whatever. Try and avoid those if it doesn't work for you. So in a way, you kind of have to look at your own body as well and see what works best for you. Obviously, all these sort of very starch heavy foods like, potatoes and pasta and all of that. If you eat a whole bowl of pasta and then try and meditate, you'll probably fall asleep. So you have to be really careful, especially in terms of what activities you want to do. And if you want to meditate, then think about what's lighter and better for you.
That's very well put. I have eaten chips at times and felt very heavy and, lethargic after that. So, so true. We take a last question for the day. And Trusar, by saying due to modern cow farming, veganism is, another movement, especially from Ahimsa. So how can modern Hinduism promote a vegan lifestyle? Yeah, that's what he's asking. Sitaben?
Yes, I mean, that's totally true, because, Hinduism has got a real affinity with the cow. And I think it's a beautiful synergy, because veganism, a big part of veganism is avoiding dairy. So I think it works really beautifully, that synergy of saying, this is a way that we can show respect and reverence to the cow, is to not exploit it for what it can produce for us. Because if you really think about it, it's quite a unnatural and strange thing that human beings do, to take the milk which is meant for a baby calf and take it and drink it ourselves. Like, if you think about it, what an odd idea when you take it out of context. I don't know who came up with that idea in the first place. It's so odd. So I think it's actually wonderful that we can synergize this idea of veganism and also this protection and reverence that comes very naturally in Hinduism for the cow. Vijay bhai?
It's a very interesting point. Actually, I have done that. I've talked to some monks, and they were not that positive because they use the milk for all kinds of dishes and whatever, you know, for giving to God. But yes, it's a very interesting point because I think, as Sita mentioned, we have had a symbiosis with the cow for so long. We look after it, we feed it fodder, it gives us milk, butter, cheese, whatever. But I think it'll be a tricky part because it's been so ingrained into Indian culture, idea of, you know, dairy, meat as well. It's not the meat, but milk products. It'll be tricky. But I know a lot of Hindus are going towards veganism, and hopefully in the future, more yogis and yoginis will promote that idea.
And there's always there's online tools available to us which can be used for promoting such ideas. Over to you, Nisib.
Wonderful. So as we conclude our discussion today on vegetarianism in Hinduism, we would like to take a moment to wish all our viewers a very happy Ram Navami. Ram Navami is a joyous occasion that celebrates the birth of Lord Ram, one of the most revered and beloved deities in Hinduism. It's a time of prayer, reflection, and celebration as we honor the teachings and the legacy of Lord Ram and his divine qualities of courage, wisdom, and compassion. So we hope this Ram Navami brings you and your loved ones peace, happiness, and prosperity, and may the blessings of Lord Ram guide you on this journey of spiritual growth and inspire you to live a life of purpose and devotion. So once again, happy Ram Navami from the team here at Hindu Academy. And so just a moment to say thank you to all our viewers who've joined us today for the discussion on vegetarianism in Hinduism. And we hope that you will have found this conversation very interesting. We'd also like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, click on the bell notification. We do upload regular new videos onto the channel. In fact, somebody mentioned, they said you've got 118,000 subscribers, but only 200 views. I mean, that's not correct. There's 10.7 million views. So it's all thanks to you all who tune in regularly and watch the content that we add to the channel. And so please keep on doing that. And finally, I'd like to invite you back to this channel at 2 o'clock next week on Saturday for another interesting topic, something to do with modern Hinduism. And we look forward to continuing this journey of learning and exploring with you. And once again, thank you for your support and your encouragement. And a big shout out to our team of resident experts here who've done a fantastic job fielding all the questions from today. And that's it from me. Bye-bye for now. Have a great week ahead.